Welcome to the Get Trauma Informed podcast, dedicated to unraveling the complexities of trauma, its pervasive impact, and the journey towards holistic recovery and realignment. If your radiance has ever felt muted, like I and thousands of others, you're in the right place to reignite your inner light. I'm your host, Wellness Coach Liz Blanding, and this is the Get Trauma Informed podcast. Well, hello, and welcome to another episode or another installation into our journey through trauma recovery. And we are working through the the veterans version of trauma recovery, and we're comparing the similarities to civilian PTSD and CPTSD. And we are on week number 4. Last week we talked about moral injury and survivor's guilt. Now, you all, that's a word for me. I kind of get that a little twisted, so forgive me in my enunciation. But I want to go back to the fact that oftentimes, well, I've heard veterans say that they didn't think that civilians encountered PTSD, and that's the general consensus. Most folk think that it's only that that's something exclusive to being a veteran. Well, in our program, in which is we're in week 4 of the program, The Warrior Within, we are looking at both sides of the spectrum. Okay, so today we're going to talk about something that trauma survivors, especially veterans, they silently carry this around. And it's moral injury. I got it right that time. And survivor's guilt. Okay. These aren't just emotional burdens, they're spiritual wounds to your values, your identity, and your soul. So when we talk about moral injury, what is it? Okay, it happens when you do something or witness something that goes against your core values. Okay, I'd like for that to sit with you for a minute with that, right? For veterans, this could be taking a life in combat. It could be witnessing violence or injustice, feeling responsible for someone else's death. It could be following orders that contradict your beliefs, okay? If it leaves you with the question, how can I live with what I saw or did? That's what it looks like. What is survivor's guilt? Survivor's guilt is the deep shame or questioning that comes after surviving something others didn't. Okay. It sounds like, why did I make it and they didn't? I should have done more. I don't deserve to be here. Okay. And there was a point in time in my family when we lost a loved one tragically, in a on a vacation, and on that vacation, she unfortunately drowned, and other family members saw her passing away in this tragic with the tides pulling her out, and so some of the conversations was around why her and not me. That's what survivor's guilt feels like. You feel like, you weren't justified, or you weren't worthy enough to be able to survive it when someone else lost their life. This isn't just limited to war. Civilians with CPTSD can also feel survivor's guilt from escaping abuse, surviving childhood trauma, or outliving loved ones, right? That's another burden that we carry or that we put on ourselves. The shame cycle, both moral, I'm sorry, here I go again. Moral injury and survivor's guilt can trigger depression, isolation, addiction, self-sabotage, a fear of joy because you think you don't deserve it. But here's the truth. You're not defined by what happened. You are being redefined through recovery. Okay. I'm gonna share a little bit from the life of the trauma informed girl. I used to question why I survived some of the traumas I went through, especially the horrific car accident that left me on the side of an embankment, and then the car rolled backwards and totaled in traffic. Right, I didn't understand that. It was like God had lifted me off of the accident that was happening, and in slow motion set me on the side of the embankment, and then the car continued, or the cars continued to total my vehicle. I couldn't understand why I was spared, okay, and why others weren't spared. Well, in that situation, everyone was spared, which was absolutely, I was really grateful for. You know, the question haunted me until I realized I was saved for purpose and not punishment. And when I say when others weren't spared, because when I went home and I looked for my vehicle, I looked for it on the news, and there were so many people in the same vehicle on the same day that did not survive. So, spiritual reflection in Psalms 103 and 10, it says, He does not treat us as our sins deserve or repay us according to our inequities. You don't have to carry what Jesus already carried or covered. You're not meant to repay, you're meant to recover. Wow. I'm going to leave us with our reflection or reflective prompt for today. Where do I still feel ashamed for surviving or for decisions made during trauma? That's a big one because we are still held to the consequences of our decisions during our trauma. That's why it's so important that we take on trauma is not our fault, but recovery, however, is our responsibility. Okay. What would it feel like to forgive yourself or accept that you're already forgiven? Let's go deeper. Let's release the guilt that's not yours to hold. I hope that resonated with you today. I look forward to seeing you on the inside of our programs or meeting you on the next episode or the next installation of our podcast. All righty. Till next time, go out there and be your best self. Bye for now. It's time to buckle up. No more suffering in silence. Our Power Pack journey to recovery and realignment starts now. Remember, you were collateral damage on someone else's warpath. Trauma is not your fault. Recovery, however, is your responsibility. I'm your host, Wellness Coach Liz Blanding, and this is the Get Trauma Informed podcast.